Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Wake Up Report. And yet another plot twist in the Will Smith Cordell Hayes murder. A video has surfaced showing that Mr. Smith's car was the car that rear-ended Mr. Hayes' Hummer, when earlier reports suggested the opposite. And as you can see by the video, the Hummer comes to an abrupt stop, and the car in the back, which is Mr. Smith's car, kind of bumps into the Hummer. The Hummer pulls off to the side. Mr. Smith's car goes around the Hummer, keeps going. The Hummer pursues Mr. Smith's car, and of course we know what happened after that. Apparently Mr. Hayes gets out of his car and shoots Mr. Smith and shoots his wife. Some comments from some people who watched my previous show on this, and thank you for your comments, agree or disagree. I always thank everybody for taking the time to comment. But first off, I have to say that would make me one of most of the media who initially reported on this. So every major news outlet, from USA Today, from NBC, MSNBC, CBS, ABC, you name it. So we're all assholes because we reported that initial information. So I hope you took the time to email all of them and call them assholes as well. Number two, it doesn't change anything. It doesn't change the fact that a 6'6", 250-something pound man in a cowardly way murdered Mr. Smith. Number three, when I found out that the video had surfaced, of course I'm going to go find it and I'm going to go look at it. Let's do our own little CSI deductive. All of it is speculative, of course, but let's look at the incident, because now we have a video that clearly shows what instigated the entire incident. Now, as you can see in the video, the Hummer, which belongs to Mr. Hayes, comes to an abrupt stop. Now, from what I see, there are no traffic lights. From what I see, there are no pedestrians that would cause him to stop abruptly to avoid hitting them, which would cause the car behind him to abruptly stop or not stop in time to hit him. So the Hummer just abruptly stops for apparently no reason, and Mr. Smith's car taps the back of the bumper of the Hummer. It's not like it was a rear-end collision that rocked the Hummer and just knocked the back of the bumper off or something like that. It's not like he hit the back of the car so hard that it even moved the Hummer. Basically, the car tapped the back of that car. Mr. Smith, or the Hummer, I'm sorry, pulls off to the side. Mr. Smith maneuvers around the Hummer and continues to go. The Hummer chases him. And, of course, Mr. Hayes kills Mr. Smith. My question is, why would the Hummer just abruptly stop like that for no reason? You're telling me, and you're expecting me to believe, that he happened to be, and here's the same thing. I'm going to ask you the same thing. I'm just asking you in reverse, I guess. You happen to be in front of Mr. Smith, not behind Mr. Smith, but you happen to be in front of him, and you happen to stop the way you stopped that car. Those of us in the hood, those of us who live in the hood, have pretty much seen this pattern before. It's when niggas carjack people. Basically, you drive in front of the person, you stop abruptly, and that car may hit the back of your car, tap the back of the car. What's going to happen is, because the person thinks it's an accident, well, initially what they do is they either stop and get out of their car to check their car, or you get out of your car to somebody gets out to check the damage. And there's usually a car behind that car. So when you get out of your car, you will either get carjacked from the front or you'll get carjacked from the rear. So what it is basically is, groups of niggas working in tandem to commit crimes. Also, it was initially reported that the Hummer hit the back of Mr. Smith's car, which caused Mr. Smith to hit the car in front of him, which was supposedly supposed to be a friend of his. And as we see in that video, there's no car in front of the Hummer. So where did this third car, this is like that Kennedy bullet, I guess. Where did this third car mysteriously come from that supposedly was supposed to be Mr. Smith's friend that he hit when the Hummer hit him? I'm not buying it. I'm still not buying it. There is no way in the world that this was just happenstance, that this man just happened to be in front of Mr. Smith. And it's just odd that you abruptly stop that car like that to cause him to hit the back of your car. It doesn't change anything that I've said. So as far as me getting my facts straight, yeah, of course, this was an incident that I didn't see, but pretty much what you're telling me, person A breaks into a house and rapes a woman, and I report on it, and you come back and tell me, get your facts straight, asshole. He didn't break in the house on the corner. He broke in the house across the street from the house on the corner. Does it change the fact that the guy broke into the house and raped the woman? No, it doesn't. Does it change the fact that this man murdered Mr. Smith in a cowardly way? Does it change the fact that a 6'6", 250-something pound man took a gun and murdered an individual in his car? So I don't know if you guys, again, thank you for the comments, but I don't know if you are of the hood nigga retribution philosophy or not. But it still doesn't excuse the fact that this man murdered him like a coward. It still doesn't excuse the fact that this man was possibly stalking him. And it doesn't excuse the fact that this man may have still set him up. It's just the same thing in reverse. But the video, you see the video for yourself. What do you think? Was Mr. Smith the cause of his own death, or was Mr. Smith set up by this individual who happened, instead of being behind him to set him up from the front? And also, more important, does it change anything that Tyrann Mathieu said? Does it change anything in his tweets? Does it change? And he has known Mr. Hayes longer than any of us, better than any of us. But I guess he's an asshole because he knows that that dude has been a hating ass coward for as long as he's known him. Never knew he'd grow up to be a killer. And if you never knew he would grow up to be a killer, that means you grew up with him. So you know what kind of a person this individual is, what kind of person he was, what kind of person he could potentially become in the future. Does it change the fact that Mr. Mathieu, who is of the same age of the very people who are making the music that I talked about in the last show, said that all they have to influence them is this garbage ass, gangster ass garbage that brainwashes them to believe that drugs and killing are cool. So I hope you tweet Mr. Mathieu and call him an asshole as well. Because what it sounds like to me is that not only do you justify Mr. Hayes killing Mr. Smith, but it sounds to me like you love gangster rap, like you love everything it stands for, and that like Mr. Hayes, you would be quick to pull a gun on somebody else, because that, after all, is what niggas like to do. So based on your comments, sir, it sounds like you support Mr. Hayes, and it sounds like you support what he did, and it sounds like you love to do the same thing after you get through listening to your gangster rap and smoking your weed and taking your illegal gun and decide, let me go out and have some fun. I thank you for your comments, but how are my facts on that? This is KTM in the Wake Up Report saying think a little bit. It will do wonders for you.